Traders' nexus smelled like ozone, exotic spices, and the particular desperation of frontier commerce. Marcus Webb navigated through the crowded marketplace with practiced efficiency, checking off his resupply list. Fuel, rations, replacement parts for the Fortune's temperamental life support. Routine stop between cargo runs, nothing complicated. Then he heard the voice, sharp, cruel, carrying over the marketplace noise. Take them, they're useless and free. Marcus turned to see a Kithran merchant, tall, with shimmering skin patterns that marked him as high caste, gesturing dismissively at a small group huddled near his stall. 4 children, clearly Kithran but smaller and frailer than any Marcus had seen, with dull skin where they should shimmer. Beside them stood a woman, gaunt and desperate, trying to shield the children with her body. Defectives, the merchant announced loudly. Genetic failures. No shimmer, no strength, no value. The mother can't pay her debts. He waved at the family like discarded merchandise. Anyone want them? No. Then they stay here until they starve or I space them. The crowd muttered, pity, indifference, but no one stepping forward. Marcus felt something familiar twist in his chest. The particular anger at people who measured worth by profit margins. I'll take them, Marcus said, stepping forward. The merchant laughed. You, a human, you know nothing about raising Kithran. They require specific nutrition, environmental controls. I said I'll take them. Marcus pulled out his credit chip. What's the debt? The merchant named a figure. Marcus paid it without haggling, watching the transaction process with the cold satisfaction of proving an asshole wrong with money. He turned to the mother and children who stared at him with expressions between hope and terror. I've got a ship. It's warm, has food, and nobody gets spaced for existing. That work for you? The mother's translator rendered her response haltingly. You would take us. Why? Because that merchant's an asshole and I've got room. Marcus offered his hand. I'm Marcus. Welcome aboard. The moment she took his hand, every Kithran in the marketplace went still. A low harmonic sound built, resonance that made Marcus's bones vibrate. An elderly Kithran stepped forward, her markings elaborate with age and status. You have invoked the right of guardianship, she said formally. By accepting the abandoned into your protection, witnessed by the people, you are bound as keeper. Their fate is now yours, your lineage now theirs, until death or the children's ascension. Marcus had no idea what that meant, but the security forces moving toward them suggested he should figure it out quickly. Chapter 2. The wandering fortune was cramped with 5 extra people, but Marcus made it work. The mother introduced herself as Lyria, and her children as Kale, Myra, Shen, and Tessa, ages roughly 6 to 12 in human terms. They were painfully thin, marked as defective by their lack of the luminescent patterns Kithran society valued. Once safely in hyperspace, Lyria explained through the ship's translator. Her children were born without genetic markers that produced valued appearance traits. In Kithran culture, appearance reflected genetic quality and quality determined everything: status, employment, rights. Defectives were considered failures that families usually abandoned at birth. She'd refused. She'd tried raising them alone, accumulated debt trying to provide for children the system excluded. Eventually, that debt led to the marketplace and the merchant's final humiliation. Marcus listened with growing anger, reminded of Earth's own ugly history with eugenics. He joined the merchant fleet to escape that kind of systemic cruelty. Then came the message from the Kithran Lineage Council explaining what Marcus had actually invoked. The right of guardianship was an ancient tradition. Accepting abandoned children created a permanent bond. The guardian became responsible for their welfare, and any achievements they gained reflected on the guardian's lineage. The tradition hadn't been invoked in centuries. Marcus invoking it, especially as a human, had created chaos. There was more. Recent research suggested the defective markers weren't failures, they were genetic divergence. Ancient alleles indicating enhanced abilities that modern Kithran had suppressed through selective breeding. If researchers were right, Marcus hadn't adopted failures. He'd adopted children with dormant abilities some people wanted hidden. Within a week, offers arrived from noble houses wanting to relieve his burden. Threats came from genetic purist factions. Human diplomatic corps warned him about causing interspecies incidents. Marcus, watching Cale help with ship maintenance while Tessa fell asleep against his shoulder, made a decision. They could all go to hell. These were his kids now. 3 months in, Marcus discovered the researchers were right. Cale demonstrated intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics, optimizing the ship systems beyond specs. Myra could perceive electromagnetic fields directly. Shen had perfect recall and learned languages instantly. Tessa sensed emotional states across species barriers. These weren't failures. They were advantages Kithran society had suppressed because they didn't fit aesthetic standards. Marcus started training them, engineering, navigation, combat basics, everything he knew. Lyria watched her children flourish under someone who saw potential rather than deficiency, but success drew attention. A science expedition tried studying them. Pirates with military-grade Kithran weapons attacked, demanding stolen genetic property. The assault ended when Cale used his abilities to restore weapons systems, driving them off. The Kithran sovereignty had decided the children represented dangerous divergence that must be controlled. Lyria suggested invoking the rite's completion clause. Demonstrate meaningful success under guardianship, and the children gain emancipation with permanent legal protection. How do we prove success? Marcus asked. We help people, Cale said, like you helped us. They started taking impossible contracts, rescues in unstable systems, relief in quarantine zones, recovery operations others refused. Work requiring improvisation and abilities that standard genetics eliminated. Slowly, they built reputation. The human and his Kithran family who solved impossible problems by approaching them from angles proper, genetics would never consider. A year after the marketplace, the children had transformed. Healthy, confident, developing abilities Marcus helped refine. The fortune was known across sectors as the ship taking impossible challenges. Every success was documented for the rite's completion. But the Genetic Preservation Council decided they represented unacceptable threats to Kithran hierarchy. If defectives could succeed, it undermined their entire society. The council sent a delegation to forcibly reclaim the children at a major trade hub, backed by legal authority and military support. The confrontation happened in a crowded docking bay. Lyria stepped forward and invoked her right under the rite, testimony to guardian worthiness. She told everything, how Kithran society declared her children worthless, how they were abandoned, how a human stranger saw value. She presented their achievements, documented successes, testimonials, proof of abilities the council had suppressed. You call them defective, Lyria said, but they've achieved more in 1 year than they could have in a lifetime under genetic selection. The defect isn't in my children. It's in a society that measures worth by appearance. Testimonials flooded in from those the family had helped. An independent arbiter reviewed evidence and ruled. The rite was completed. The children were emancipated, Marcus's lineage protected. The council withdrew, legally blocked. Their leader threatened, "This isn't over." Marcus responded, "We've gotten pretty good at impossible problems." 6 months later, the fortune continued challenging contracts, but now other Kithran defectives sought them out. Marcus and Lyria quietly helped refugees find placement, building an underground network. The children became advocates. Cale lectured at engineering conferences, Myra designed sensor systems, Shen translated diplomatic negotiations, Tessa worked with trauma counselors. In their quarters, Lyria asked Marcus, "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus looked at the family they'd built. "Not once. I walked into that marketplace looking for supplies. I left with proof that the worthless aren't worthless. They're just waiting for someone to see what everyone else missed." You gave us proof that we matter, Lyria said. Marcus pulled up their next impossible contract. Ready. Lyria's ears tilted forward, determination and joy. Always, we're very good at impossible. Below, 4 children once declared useless and free were now irreplaceable and valued, living